Hi everybody, welcome to Now Your Cooking's Thursday demo. Tonight we are making pudding from scratch, which is awesome. It's delicious, it's quick and easy to make, and it uses pretty much things that you probably already have in your pantry or in your fridge, like eggs and milk and cornstarch and cocoa powder, stuff like that. Before we start on that, I do want to mention that Bath has Spring into Summer Festival coming up, and that is on Saturday, May 20th. There's going to be tons of fun stuff going on downtown. We are going to have a tent sale on the Customs House lawn like we did last year, and we have for a couple of years, so there's going to be some really great deals going on out there. So put that on your calendar, Saturday, May 20th, downtown Bath. Tent sale is from 9 to 2, and I think most of the things that are happening around town are probably in about that kind of time frame as well. So come to Spring into Summer, have a beer at the brew pub, have dinner somewhere, and enjoy the day in downtown Bath. Fun town, great community. So, pudding. So yesterday I made vanilla pudding. And I have some here. We marinated, I don't know that they're marinated. We put sugar on some strawberries, and then I grated some milk chocolate on top of that. And some of the staff had some at lunch today and said they loved it. We also have bada bing cherries, which would be great either with the vanilla or with chocolate, which is what I'm going to make tonight. Basically, the vanilla and the chocolate pudding are exactly the same thing, but the chocolate pudding has cocoa powder in it. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is measure out 2/3 of a cup of sugar, and it doesn't matter if there are lumps in there because we're going to whisk it up. So 2/3 of a cup of sugar and a quarter teaspoon of salt. A third of a cup of cocoa powder because we are making chocolate. If you don't want to make chocolate, just leave this part out. So a third of a cup of cocoa powder. This is Hershey's Special Dark. You don't have to use a dark chocolate. You can use a lighter chocolate or milk chocolate if you want. Well, I guess cocoa powder doesn't come in milk chocolate, but anyway. So that is in here. I'm going to whisk this together just to make sure it's well mixed. And then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of milk. This is whole milk, and it's best to use whole milk if you can. And we're going to just stir that up. Before I turn the stove on, I'm going to measure out another cup of milk. And I'm going to add 4 large egg yolks, which I've separated from the whites. I always save the whites. You can use them for a scramble in the morning for breakfast. You can use them for meringues or anything like that. They do freeze pretty well, so you could put this right into your freezer. I'm going to take that home and have egg white omelet for the next couple of mornings for breakfast. So this is my 4 egg yolks, cup of milk. And I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of cornstarch to this. Cornstarch helps with the thickening and helps it with the thickening and the creaminess of the pudding. And I'm going to whisk this up, and we're going to just set this aside for a minute or 2 or 3. Want it well mixed. The cornstarch tends to separate as it sits, so even like if you're making a sauce or something with cornstarch, you always want to mix it with a cold liquid before you put it into the hot, or it will just clump up and it won't do anything. But it tends to separate, so before we move on to our next step with this, we will whisk that up again. Meanwhile, back to the stove, and we are turning on the heat, and we want it about a medium heat. I'm still getting used to induction, and so my vanilla pudding looks like I used vanilla beans, but I didn't. I actually kind of browned the bottom of the pudding a little bit. So don't do that. But at least it wasn't burnt, so it still tastes good. So speaking of vanilla beans, you can use a vanilla bean. You cut it, you slice it, scrape out the seeds, and then put the whole thing in. And then before you serve it, you take out the pod part of it. You can do that to make a really nice like really vanilla-y vanilla pudding. You can also use, we're using the Vane's Vanilla Original Baker's Blend, which we have here. We have several of their vanillas. We also carry a Mexican vanilla, which is fantastic. And we also carry a bunch of flavorings from Voyagen. And you could use any of these with, you know, with the chocolate. Like you can make a chocolate coconut or a chocolate cherry, especially if you were going to use the Bada Bing cherries on this. So lots of options, and you can just use your imagination, really. So you can see that's really chocolatey looking. And what I'm doing here is I'm heating up the milk and the sugar and the cocoa powder and the salt, and I want it to get so that it's steaming, and it's not quite hot yet, but it's getting there. So it's going to take a minute. So other things you can use pudding for. You can eat it like we have it served here with the strawberries and a little bit of chocolate on it, or you know, other fruit or whatever. You can also use it in a trifle, which we've made before in one of our demos. A trifle is usually like angel food cake or pound cake with layers of whipped cream and fruit and pudding, and it's really, really good. We have these new glassware, by the way, which is beautiful. So we have the dessert dishes. We also have these guys, which you could do personal, individual trifles in, which would look absolutely beautiful. So lots of fun new dishware here. You can also use pudding for like a cream pie of some sort. You can either buy or make a pie crust, or like an Oreo pie crust or a graham cracker pie crust, and then put in the pudding. You can do slices of banana and make a banana cream pie or a coconut cream pie. Mix in some toasted coconut into your vanilla pudding and use a little bit of the coconut flavoring. I'm just going to turn this up a little bit while I'm not making too much of a mess. So lots of things you can do with pudding, and it's just so quick. Like I said, one thing to remember is that you do want to do it ahead of time. You can serve it warm, you could serve it hot, but it's really best chilled. Although you are free to disagree with me on that if you like your pudding warm. So this is starting to get hot. So we talked about the induction a couple of times, but what's happening is electromagnetic currents, which are heating the pan, not heating the stove. So the stove will be hot to the touch when we're done, but that's because of the heat transferred from the pan, not actually from the stove, which is kind of cool if you like science. And if you like to cook, then you like science, because cooking is science. Like understanding how this is thickening because of the ingredients in it and so on. It's not actually thickening right now, it's just heating. But the egg yolks and the cornstarch are going to thicken it right up. Come on. We also talked about, somebody was asking me today, one of the staff, about butterscotch pudding, which is basically the same process, but butterscotch is caramelized brown sugar. So to do butterscotch pudding, look at a recipe, don't just wing it. But you caramelize your brown sugar with butter and water, then you add your milk and cream to it, then you temper your eggs and add your eggs back in. But also a really good option if you like butterscotch. I'm just going to let that sit for a moment while we chat amiably amongst ourselves. But I love pudding. I made this for some friends a couple of weeks ago, and it was just a nice, small portions, just a really nice, sweet, bright way to end the meal with fresh strawberries again, which surprisingly have been really nice lately. They are California, I believe, but they're actually really good lately. We'll be getting ours here in Maine soon. So trying not to spill, I should have done this in a bigger bowl, but I wanted you to be able to see the whole process here. What I'm going to do is temper the eggs in just a minute when this starts getting a little steamy. And so tempering the eggs means I'm going to warm them up before I add them. So if I put cold eggs straight into a really, really hot liquid here, they would scramble and you'd have chocolate flavored scrambled eggs, which frankly sounds disgusting. It still tastes good, but it would be weird texture. So let's not do that. So instead, we are going to temper our eggs by adding a little bit of the hot liquid into the eggs as we're whisking it. And you want to add it slowly. God, I am making a mess tonight, huh? You want to add it slowly because you don't want to have scrambled eggs there. And probably 2 ladles full. This is about a quarter cup ladle. Is good, and make sure that that's, so it's going to warm it up just a little bit. And then whisking, we are adding this straight in. And I am going to keep stirring this until it really starts to thicken up, which is only going to take a minute or so. So you can see, I mean, if you have people coming over for dinner, you just make this sometime during the day and toss it into the fridge, and you have dessert all ready to go, and you don't have to let it interfere with your dinner prep, which is what I like because I tend to do dinners that have a lot of prep or a lot of work put into them. So thickening up, you can kind of see it starting to thicken. And I am whisking it constantly because I don't want it to brown on the bottom like my vanilla did. Again, it's perfectly fine, the vanilla pudding. It just has little flakes of brown where it cooked a little bit too much on the bottom because I didn't whisk it the whole time. Now, when I'm done with this, I don't usually strain it. If you feel like yours is kind of lumpy, maybe your eggs were not tempered well enough and you've got a little bit of chunks of egg in there, just put it through a sieve into a bowl and just, use your whisk to kind of press it through, and that should get all of any kind of lumps or anything out of it. You can feel it starting to cook on here a little bit. So induction is awesome because it's fast, but induction is tricky because it's so fast. So you really have to keep an eye on it. And this should start thickening up pretty soon. And if I had strained my vanilla pudding, then I wouldn't have had those brown specks in it. But as you all know by now, watching me, I am not a perfectionist.
What are you making next week?
Next week, so next week I'm going to be making a shallot jam. We were going to make a shallot tarte tatin, but then we realized we've already done tarte tatin twice. So we're going to make a balsamic shallot jam next week. And that is going to be something that you can put on burgers or have it with steak. So it's got a little bit of sweetness to it, but it's definitely a savory. It's definitely a savory item. I don't know why this isn't thickening. Because I'm on camera. I've only made this like 18 times this year. It's worked perfectly. Maybe I'm whisking too much. Let it just cook for a sec. The induction stoves are really quick to react to. So if you turn the heat down, it turns right down. If you turn it up, it goes right up quickly. So the other thing to remember about pudding, and I'll show you this in a sec, is that it will form a skin if you just let it cool without, with air on it. So When you put it away, you want to put plastic wrap right on top of the pudding, so it's actually touching the pudding. Just stirring my non-thickening pudding here. I'm afraid to bring it too high because I don't want to burn it. Even us seasoned cooks have issues. But it is, I can tell it's starting to thicken a little bit now. I'm just going to let it kind of cook for a moment. Cook, cook. Watched pudding never boils, as they say. Yeah, I can tell it's thickening because I can see it on the bottom of my, see, you can see it's starting to thicken. Okay, here we go, folks, here we go. This is exciting. Maybe it's not that exciting, but it's good. I'm just going to grab something to put my hot pan on and wipe up my mess. Come on, baby, I know you can do it. Isn't this fun? Watching somebody whisk. So the strawberries are just sliced and they have sugar on them, and then just stirred up and refrigerated. Cover them with plastic wrap, and the sugar brings out the juices. So you can see there's a really nice syrup, and it really is a syrup. It's a little thicker. It's not just strawberry juice. It's thicker because it has the sugar in it. And that brings out a lot of the flavor of the strawberries. And we grated some chocolate on top. That is Cadbury milk bar, and that is the most delicious milk chocolate, and it is imported from England, and it is fabulous. And we used the microplane, which is great for doing cheese or garlic or ginger. Sometimes I put my ginger into the freezer when I get it, and then I pull it out and I just grate it while it's frozen, and it seems to work. All right, I'm not sure why this isn't thickening. Sorry. We'll give it one more minute and then we'll just finish it up, and it'll probably thicken as it cools. I'm probably just not letting it come to a boil. Ooh, look at that. It's boiling. I just turned the heat up and it suddenly just started boiling. You can see it's starting to bubble. And that is what's going to thicken it right up. Oh yeah, I can feel that. All right. So you want to put it on a higher heat than I had it on. Don't be afraid. Okay, you can see, I don't know if you can see that that's thickening, but it definitely is getting thicker. And it is starting to boil, which is very exciting. All right, I'm going to take it off, power off, and the next thing I'm going to do is add some butter. This is homemade butter. If you went to the STEM event at the high school last week, you may have seen me there shaking up cream, and had cream for other people to shake, and we made our own butter, which was really fun. And it's just like butter that you buy at a store. It's agitated cream. And you can put salt in it or herbs or anything like that. So the butter goes in. That helps the richness and adds a little bit of fat to it. And then we're going to use some of our vanilla, teaspoon of vanilla. And we're going to mix that in. And then this can go into a big bowl to get covered and put into the fridge, or you can put it into individual servings. And we are using these really pretty new bowls. That's about 1/2 cup. We're going to add one more scoopful because we love our chocolate pudding. And that's what that looks like. And then, like I said, you want to take a piece of plastic and you want it to actually make contact with the top of the pudding. Unless you like the skin. Some people like the pudding skin. Do you like the pudding? You do? Heather likes pudding skin. So Heather would not do this step. Heather would just put it into the fridge with a cover on it. So that's going to go into the fridge. It's really hot right now. You could just eat it at room temperature if you want to, like I said. You can put cherries on it. You can put strawberries on it. You can do whipped cream. You could put coconut, whatever you want to do, or just eat it just like that. It's fantastic. Thank you for bearing with me while my pudding didn't thicken. And we will see you next week for shallot jam. And don't forget to put on your calendar May 20th, Saturday, May 20th for Spring Into Summer Festival in downtown Bath. Lots of fun stuff, including a Now You're Cooking sale tent out on the Customs House lawn. Thank you so much for joining me.